Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're your shortcut to getting genuinely well-informed. We dig into the latest stuff, research articles, you name it, pull out the key bits, and, well, hand them right over to you. Today, we're tackling something a lot of you are probably thinking about. Getting that really powerful gaming feel, but in something you can actually carry around. And, without breaking the bank. It's not just raw speed, it's about getting smart value. Okay, let's unpack this. Specifically, we're zoning in on the GIGABYTE Gaming A16 laptop today. We've been looking at some fresh takes on this machine, trying to figure out what makes it tick. And the main promise, based on what we've seen, it's pretty bold. A powerhouse gaming laptop, specifically for budget gamers. And they claim it delivers a desktop-level gaming experience. That's a big claim for a laptop in this category.
It absolutely is a really significant claim. And what's fascinating here is, well, how much is packed into that powerhouse for budget gamers idea? Our job today in this deep dive is really to look past the shiny marketing talk. We're digging into the specs, the features people are talking about to find those nuggets of knowledge, the things that actually matter to your experience using it. So we'll look at the raw power inside, the CPU, the graphics, then we'll get into the visuals, the sound, how immersive it feels, and yeah, also the design choices, what helps, what might maybe hold it back a bit. The idea is for you, listening, to get a quick but really solid grasp on whether this GIGABYTE A16 actually lives up to that promise. Where does it shine? And importantly, what are the trade-offs? Because there are usually trade-offs, right? Especially balancing performance and price. We want to cut through the tech talk and tell you what really counts.
Perfect. So if we're talking powerhouse, especially aiming for that desktop kind of feel, it has to start with what's inside, right? The core components. Here's where it gets really interesting. Looking at our sources, this A16 packs an Intel Core i7-13620H processor, a pretty hefty 32 gigs of DDR5 RAM, a fast 1 terabyte Gen 4 SSD, and for graphics, NVIDIA GeForce RTX 570 GPU. Now, for people keeping track of hardware, that's a potent list. These aren't just parts, they're serious ingredients. So what's the combined effect? How do these actually work together for someone wanting that high performance, but, still watching their budget?
Yeah, that's the crucial question, isn't it? Take the processor, the Intel Core i7-13620H. It's not just any i7. It uses Intel's hybrid setup performance cores and efficient cores. What that means for gaming is, well, you get strong speeds for the demanding games, but it can also handle background stuff or even creative work like, say, video editing, pretty effectively using those other cores. It's built to be flexible, basically trying to avoid bottlenecks in that laptop form factor. And then you add the 32 gigs of DDR5 RAM. It's not just the amount, though, so that's great. It's the speed. DDR5 is faster, more bandwidth, usually 5,200 megahertz, maybe more. Our sources point out this is really key for smooth frame rates, especially in modern games that eat up memory. Stop the CPU just waiting around. And that 1 TB Gen 4 SSD, that just makes everything faster. Gain loading, booting up the system, it makes the whole thing feel, well, immediate. You're not sat there waiting, it just feels responsive.
Right, so it's not just throwing powerful parts in a box. It's like a chosen set that works well together for that snappy feeling. But okay, then there's the GPU, the NVIDIA GeForce RTX 570. The other parts, the i7 32 gigs RAM, the fast SSD, they feel pretty high-end for a budget-focused machine. But the GPU, that often sets the real limit for being a gaming powerhouse. What are we hearing about the RTX 570's actual performance in this laptop? Does it really get close to that desktop-level idea, especially considering the value aspect?
Well, this is exactly where that idea of balance comes in. The RTX 570, from what we're seeing, it's described as a really strong performer, especially at 1080p resolution. It handles high frame rates well, and it supports the modern stuff like ray tracing, DLSS, things you want for good visuals now. For budget gamers, the key thing seems to be its performance for the money. It lets you play most new AAA games very smoothly, often on high settings, maybe even ultra sometimes. But, and this is important, you need to set expectations. It's fantastic for 1080p. But if you're trying to push the absolute latest, most demanding games to max settings and hit that super high refresh rate on the display, well, you might need to tweak some graphics options down a bit. So what that means for you using it is you get a really compelling visual experience, yes. But it's about being smart with the settings. Maybe you dial back one or two things to keep it locked at that super smooth 165 frames per second, rather than just cranking everything to the absolute max in every single game. And that's a really common and frankly smart trade-off in this budget gaming space. It lets GIGABYTE put in a GPU that seriously boosts the gaming feel without, making the price skyrocket. It definitely punches above its weight for the cost. It bridges that gap towards desktop gaming pretty well, but yeah, with the understanding you might make small adjustments in the toughest games.
That makes sense. It's a critical point for listeners. Great performance for the price often means knowing where those smart compromises are made. Okay, so raw power is one piece. But how that power actually reaches your eyes and ears, because that's the other half, right? Let's shift from the internals to the visual side. Our sources talk up this 16-inch Wukaga display. It's got a sharp 165 hertz refresh rate and that 16:10 aspect ratio. So what does this all mean for the person actually using it for hours?
Oh, these display specs are absolutely key to the whole immersive feel. The 16-inch Wuka panel itself, that's just nice, generous screen space. But it's that 165 hertz refresh rate. That's the real game changer here. For anyone who knows gaming, it's not just a bigger number. It means way less motion blur, less ghosting. Movement on screen looks incredibly fluid. In fast games, especially competitive ones, that can actually mean you spot targets quicker, track them more precisely. It could genuinely give you an edge. You're seeing things happen almost instantly. Crucial for reaction times.
Yeah, and the 16:10 aspect ratio adds to that. You know, most laptops used to be 16:9, which is okay, but 16:10 gives you more vertical space. Think of it like, yeah, extra digital real estate. Games can feel a bit more expansive, drawing you in more.
Yeah.
But it's not just games. It's great for productivity, too.
Oh, right. Like seeing more of a web page or document. Exactly. More lines of code, more of your document, bigger slice of your video timeline. Less scrolling all the time. It's kind of subtle, but it's a really powerful boost for both the visuals and just general usefulness for creative work, like our sources mentioned. It's a smart pick that helps in more ways than one.
Yeah, I can see that extra screen space being useful, whether you're battling monsters or battling a spreadsheet. Okay, but visuals are only half of it.
Yeah.
What about the sound? The sources also mentioned Dolby Atmos audio. How does that lift things beyond just, making sounds clear?
Well, Dolby Atmos isn't just about clarity. It's about creating a sort of 3D soundscape around you. For a gamer, that's huge. Our sources really stress how it adds depth, making things like explosions or footsteps feel real. And that's not just nice-sounding fluff. It can genuinely give you a tactical edge. Imagine hearing exactly where an opponent's footsteps are coming from, or pinpointing a projectile, even if it's off-screen. It turns sound from just, like, left-right stereo into this rich spatial environment. You can place things much better. And even for non-gaming stuff, movies, music, it just makes everything sound richer, more dynamic, more engaging. It uses the laptop speakers, or even better with headphones, to really pull you into whatever you're doing. Sound becomes a real part of the experience, not just background noise. It delivers that immersive sound they talk about.
Okay, so we've got the power covered, the great visuals, immersive sound, but a gaming laptop is also a thing you touch, you interact with, maybe for hours straight. Let's talk about the physical side, the design and build of this GIGABYTE A16. Our source calls it thoughtfully designed. Specifically points out a comfortable curved keyboard and a 180-degree hinge for flexibility. Now, these might sound like small things, but how do they actually affect using it day to day, especially for a budget gaming powerhouse?
You know, those seemingly small details, they're actually really important for just using the thing comfortably over time, something that often gets missed when everyone's just looking at benchmark numbers. That comfortable curved keyboard, it's not just looks, it's ergonomics, right? If you're gaming for hours, typing a lot, doing creative work, anything that reduces strain on your hands and wrists is a big deal. The curve probably helps your hands sit more naturally. That means more comfort, which means you can play longer, work longer, enjoy it more. It shows they thought about the person using it, not just the chips inside.
Makes sense.
And that 180-degree hinge for flexibility, that's actually a brilliant little feature. Adds a lot of versatility.
Like laying it completely flat.
Exactly. Which sounds weird, but think about it. Maybe you're showing something to someone across the table, they don't have to crane their neck. Or you're collaborating. Or maybe you plug in a big monitor and want the laptop screen just flat as a secondary info display. It just shows they understand that a gaming laptop isn't only used for gaming anymore. It's often your main computer needs to adapt. It adds real practical value beyond just the performance numbers.
Right, those are definitely nice touches for everyday usability. But, and there's often a but when you pack so much performance and design thought into something portable, there's usually a trade-off somewhere. Our source mentions the weight pretty clearly. The GIGABYTE Gaming A16 is about 4.9 pounds. Okay, not like ridiculously heavy, but definitely not an ultrabook either. So it's not the lightest for travel. How should listeners think about this compromise versus all the performance stuff we discussed?
Yeah, that 4.9 pounds, that's the most obvious trade-off, isn't it? And it's really common with powerful gaming laptops. It's important for listeners to understand why it weighs that much, though. It's almost always because you've got those top-tier performance parts inside the beefy CPU, the dedicated GPU, a decent battery, and crucially, you need a serious cooling system to handle all the heat they generate.
The cooling.
Exactly. To stop those parts from overheating and slowing down, you need substantial cooling. Heat pipes big fans, maybe even vapor chambers sometimes. All that hardware adds weight and bulk. It's physics, really, so yeah, it's not going to be the easiest thing to just toss in a super light bag every single day, but it's a conscious engineering choice. Gigabyte seems to have prioritized keeping performance strong and consistent, keeping it cool over making it featherlight. It's that classic tension in gaming laptops, power versus portability. So ultimately, it comes down to a personal call for you, the listener. How much do you value running demanding stuff smoothly, consistently? And are you okay with it being a bit more substantial to carry around because of that? It directly reflects that whole desktop level experience in a laptop idea. That kind of power just needs a certain amount of physical, well, presence.
It really does come down to what matters most to you personally, doesn't it? And after digging into this, it feels like the Gigabyte A16 has made some really clear choices to find its spot. We've seen how it combines serious power, that Intel i7, the capable RTX 570, delivers that really nice visual experience with the big, fast 16-point Nella screen, wraps it up with that immersive Dolby Atmos sound, and then adds those thoughtful touches like the keyboard and hinge. So really, it does look like a very strong contender for its intended audience. You know, those budget-conscious gamers who still want that genuine, portable powerhouse feeling. Seems to hit a nice sweet spot. But for you, listening, what's the final thought here?
That's exactly it. And this raises an important question, I think, for anyone looking at tech like this. What does a budget gaming powerhouse truly mean to you? Is it just about getting the best benchmark scores for your money? Or do things like how the keyboard feels or how flexible that hinge is, do those start to matter more for how happy you are with it long term? You know, how much are you willing to accept a slightly heavier machine to get the undeniable benefits of that high refresh screen or the spatial audio that can really change how you play? And maybe more broadly, in this tech world that moves so fast, how do we actually tell real balanced value like this A16 seems to offer from just clever marketing hype, especially when comparing it to all the other options out there, keeping that core goal in mind, wanting that capable, almost desktop tier gaming experience. But, you know, in a laptop, you can actually move.
Yeah,
It's a tricky decision. Really comes down to your own priorities and understanding what goes into making these machines.